Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing something a bit different to what I normally do. I'm going to be starting a new series where I go over every ability in Peroxide and kind of just rank each of them on a tier list by the end of the video. We're going to be starting off with shikais, and in today's video we're taking a look at fire. If you want to vote on what shikai you guys want me to do next, you can join my Discord server. Link in the description below. Where I'll let you guys pick out what element I should cover next. And yeah, without further ado, make sure to drop a like and consider subbing to me, as it really does help out, and let's get right into the video. So the three moves that fire offers you is Flame Slash, Will of Fire, and Fire Pillars, with Flame Slash being the extender, so let's get into that first. Flame Slash does around 60 to 100 damage, it scales with strength, it has a windup of about 0.3 seconds, and it stuns for about 1 second. It is evasiveable, it can be Movestacked, although I'm not sure why you'd want to Movestack it. It does not knock back, it is cancelable, it is blockable, it is true off of M1s, the Reiatsu cost is about 8 to 10% of your Reiatsu, and for the special effects of the actual move, it applies burn and it up tilts. So now that we got the extender out of the way, let's move on to the first move, which is Will of Fire. It does about 200 to 300 damage, it dual scales, and has a windup of about 1 second, and it stuns for about 3 seconds. It is evasiveable, you cannot Movestack it, it does knockback, and it is cancelable, and it does block break. It's not true off of M1s, and it's not true off a downslam either. The Reiatsu cost of it is about 10 to 12% of your Reiatsu. And the special effects on the move is that it applies burn, and it has about triple the knockback of most other moves. Now that that's out of the way, let's move on to the Fire Pillars, which is our second move here. Fire Pillars do about 100 to 200 damage, and they scale with Spirit. The windup for it is about 1 second, and it stuns for about 0.3 seconds. It is evasiveable, it is Movestackable, it does not give knockback, although it does launch you into the air. It is cancelable, it does block break. It's not true off M1s, although it is true off a downslam, and it drains also about 10 to 12% of your Reiatsu. The special effect of the move is that it applies burn that you can combo into other shikai moves, which is something I'll be going over later in the video when I get to the tips, tricks, and techs. So let's have a review for each of the moves here, starting with the extender. Flame Slash is a pretty okay extender, it does okay damage, and it does up tilt, which is a bonus. Overall, just a pretty generic extender, not that much damage, comes out pretty fast, and does not have a lot of end lag, so pretty okay move. Moving on to Will of Fire. Will of Fire is arguably not that good of a move. It has a very long windup, it's cancelable, and really doesn't do that much damage. So it's not a bad move per se, but the actual issue with Will of Fire is that you rarely get to land it, and that's in part because of how bad Fire Pillars is. Because the way Fire is set up, you're supposed to land Fire Pillars, then use Will of Fire or Flame Slash if Will of Fire is off cooldown. But not a lot of people use Fire Pillars, and for good reason, because Fire Pillars is not that good of a move. And let's talk about that. So Fire Pillars is, I'm gonna be honest here, it's really just a dog shit move. Has a very long wind up, very long end lag, doesn't really do that much damage, and it's not true off M1s either. It is true off a downslam, so it has that for it, but otherwise it's not really that good of a move. So having Fire Pillars be bad kinda just makes Will of Fire even worse. So overall, not a very impressive base, but let's move on to the mode here. So for the Bankai, there are 3 passives total. So the first passive here is the Fire Servants, which spawns a skeleton around you every 7 to 9 seconds, with only 2 skeletons being able to be out at a time. These skeletons are blockable, they stun for literally less than like 0.1 seconds, and they don't knock back, although they did used to knock back, and they used to be a lot more annoying. They do around 100 damage, and they scale with Spirit. So let's move on to the second passive here, which basically makes it so that all sources of damage that you have access to proc burn, so they proc the burn effect, and whenever you hit an M2 counter, it spawns another skeleton, aside from the 2 skeletons that you can already have out with your first passive. And finally we have your M2, so the M2 passive, it has about a 30 frame startup. It's a faster M2, it has a larger range, both vertically and horizontally, and it does a base damage of 6, scales with strength, and it does guard break, of course, since it's an M2. And lastly, let's move on to the ultimate here. So the ultimate is Ocean of Fire, which is surprising to me because I didn't know it had a name. Well, I mean, I did assume it had a name, but I didn't know what the name was. And Ocean of Fire sounds cool as hell, so... The actual damage on the ult is around 700 to 900, and that's assuming each and every one of the hits on the ultimate actually hit you. It scales with Spirit, has a windup of about 0.6 seconds, it does not stun, it knockbacks, it is Evasiveable, it is Cancellable, it does guard break, and it's not true FM1s, there's no Reiatsu cost to it. And the special effect of the ultimate is that it summons extra skeletons based on the damage done to your opponent. There's only really 2 things you want to know when it comes to tips with fire, and number 1 is the chaining gimmick. Chaining is quite a unique mechanic, with the only other ability in the game that allows you to chain moves being Tether. Basically, landing fire pillars allows you to chain any of your 2 other shikai moves, as showed in the clips you just saw. The second tip is to use your ultimate when your opponent is backed against a wall to maximize damage, and it does do a boatload of damage if you can trap your opponent against the wall with it. Lastly, when it comes to gems, you don't want to put Inferno on any of your moves, as all of your moves already do proc burn, so it's kinda just pointless putting Inferno on it. You can put Aegis on Fire Slash to avoid any punishes with the end lag on it. And Terra Byakurai can help land Will of Fire if you have Wind on Will of Fire. If you want to see more of that, you can check out Nin. He's another content creator, he's a fire user, and he's pretty good. All in all, I think fire is pretty middle of the line in terms of other shikais. It's definitely viable with both strength and spirit, although there are better options for both strength and spirit as well. I'm pretty comfortable putting fire in the C tier here. It's pretty average, the Bunkai is decent, and it has a decent ult. As for suggestions, I think Fire Pillar needs a rework, and so does the ult. The whole move chaining gimmick doesn't really work well at all. It doesn't work nearly half as well as it does on something like Tether, which means they should either rework Fire Pillars entirely by allowing you to chain into any move, for example, kind of like Aerial Tandem, and making it less punishing to attempt to land, and also making it chainable off of other moves such as Flame Slash or Will of Fire. Fire is really held back by the fact that you can only chain off a Fire Pillar because, let's be honest, Fire Pillar just kinda sucks. As for the ultimate, it doesn't really do much on its own, so I would suggest changing it to spawn a certain amount of skeletons rather than spawning them based off of damage dealt, or making it easier to get damage off the ult. Anyways, that's all for the video. Please do consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys next time.